Sports Drop, No DQ podcast. We got 5-time tag team champion, 2-time hardcore champion, Levi McDaniel with us. How you doing,
What's up,
brother?
Levi?
What's going on, guys?
The man with the plan.
The man with the plan.
Man. That's right. What do we got going on tonight here?
Not a lot. Seeing what you got going on tonight.
Yeah, just doing our little sports drop, you know.
That's right. 402, baby. I'm over in the 515, though.
515?
Yeah, Des Moines, Iowa.
He's in Des Moines, dude.
Iowa, the Hawkeye. You got a Hawkeye championship too, don't you?
We there's a Shenandoah, Iowa. We did a tournament back in the day, like every year or so. We were there. It was like a tournament for the Hawkeye Cup, and I don't remember what year it was, but I won it one of the years. Yeah.
A lot of accomplishments, man. Holy, good for you, man.
Well, appreciate it, man. I got into wrestling because I was serious about it, and you know, from the beginning, I wanted to be the best I could and go out and do what I can, you know, and
yeah.
It slows down here and there with the injuries and life and other stuff, but I mean, I've never stopped wrestling, and I've always been available and tried my best to get out there and make a name for myself over the years. So far, I'm doing all right, but I got to get over this recovery on my shoulder right now. That's the big thing, and you know, I feel like I'm just getting started once I get back in shape a little bit, the way I want to be, you know.
Yeah, I was watching some of your old matches on YouTube, and man, that battle royal with the staple gun. It looked like it was like where was that? Was that in Iowa?
I believe if it was did it look like it was outside in a park or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably one of my shows, and it would have been in Iowa. And I think if that's the one I'm thinking of, it's like 2019 time frame, so before COVID.
Yeah, it was like LMFP.
LMFP.
Yeah.
Promotion. Yeah.
So do you run LMFP?
Yep, I do. And right now, LMFP is basically kind of okay. So I have a training school now, and I'm training guys up in Palo, Iowa, which is just outside of Cedar Rapids. I do that every other Saturday.
Nice.
And then basically it's out on a farm, and we'll film some matches, kind of like a hangout party. It's not like I'm not trying to have a big show and sell tickets. It's more or less like I do the training, and then I get with the guys, and I'm like, all right, let's pair this guy and this guy, try to incorporate some stuff from training, go have a match. Now, the beauty in that is I'm giving opportunity to guys to go out there and do 10, 15-minute match that they wouldn't really have on a normal show. Let's say like MWA.
I would love that. That would be awesome.
Because there's no time constraints. We're filming it just for the internet, basically. So it's a different philosophy. I mean, I would love to be able to run live shows just like we do with the MWA and all that. However, I don't personally own a ring right now. So the ring up there is another promoter's, and we worked out a deal so I can do the training and do my stuff. And then the ring, I've rented Bryant, the MWA ring, you know, for some of my other shows. But I started promoting years ago, and it kind of was by accident. I wrestled for Rock and Roll Buck Zumoff, which don't have to talk too much about him. He's an old AWA guy. He's also pedophile in prison, so I don't want to talk too much about him, but he was always good to me, and as a promoter, worked for him. He went to prison, and his girlfriend gave me a call and said, come get the ring if you want it. And it was a little midget ring because they ran midget shows pretty much. And so I had this ring, right? And my idea was like, I'm just going to have it sit in storage, and I'll call some bars or some events. And if they want to have wrestling, we'll do a midgets type of show with some women mixed in, and then maybe some hardcore wrestling. And that's how it started. So I had like a package I would sell to the bars. Like, you know, if you pay me this much, we'll come in and do a show, and then we'll take some money at the door. And it was kind of like a small, fun, like bar show type of thing. But
nice.
I wasn't trying to like go rent a building and then go sell tickets and do all that. It was more like put a package together and try to sell that to a bar, and then, you know, when the money's guaranteed, then I'll put on the show. I'm not going to start from behind because I don't have the money to do that, to just rent a building, rent the ring, you know, pay for all the wrestlers, all that stuff. So it ended up being just like a sporadic thing. And the problem with it was there's just no storylines, and overall just kind of booking whoever's available, you know. So put on a good show, but you wasn't really building any story that way. Now we got this thing going on every other weekend. We're not really building too many stories right now, but I'm a big fan of that, and I know when the budget's improved, we'll be able to do more with it, you know. But it's a lot of young guys I'm giving shots to for the most part.
Very cool. Respect, man. Respect.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot of good just to get ring time, man. Just to get ring time.
That's
Will
it,
make
bro.
it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. Just like anything you do, all you need is repetition, 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 and start to learn it.
Exactly, and that's my whole philosophy too. Like, man, I've been doing this forever, but I still wake up every day with the goal that I want to be the best I can at this, no matter what. And when I
Yeah.
go and train these guys, I mean, these guys are like late teens, early 20s, a lot of them. So having my injury and coming off that, it's definitely helping me get back in the shape I need to be and be where I want to be. You know,
And helping
going,
these young guys out.
yep, and then going
That's
toe to
awesome.
toe with them. You know, like, I mean, it's cool because my technique alone, I know they can't out wrestle me, but I have a big handicap right now with my shoulder because I have zero strength. I cannot lift anybody up. I get down on the ground and try doing some grappling, and if I have to put my weight on my left side, it's not very good. So I'm learning how to adapt myself and rebuild what's been damaged. So it's been good for me, man. I'm feeling good right now, to be honest.
Good. Good. That's always
Very
healthy.
cool.
Yeah, and that leads me on to one other thing. I looked at your picture and stuff. You're bleeding with the cigarette out your mouth. You kind of remind me of kind of a Sandman kind of a
That's what I was
guy.
gonna say.
I was kind of thinking Sandman.
Yeah, and
And
I
then we were just
take
Go
that as a
ahead.
compliment, man. Yeah, Sandman's one of my favorites, and he's definitely an inspiration. I have a lot of different inspirations from wrestling, but I like the oddities. I like the guys that are different. I like the characters. I like, you know, this. I don't like all the cookie cutter type of
Me
stuff.
neither. Me neither.
So
If I had my other buddy here, he's a heel guy with me. We're always heel guys. We don't like Cody. We're always heel guys.
right. So some of my favorite guys, if I listed off my favorites, you would be like, wow, those guys are all totally different.
Let's
Like
hear
for
'em.
example, Abdullah the Butcher. That's one of
Nice.
my all-time favorites because
Respect.
just him walking out to the ring, he got the pop and he got the fear, and he never needed a championship belt to be over. And he was the guy that, you know, in the territories, when the money was down, they would bring him in to build the gate back up, and he didn't need
Got
a
his
belt.
forehead.
He didn't need a
Oh
belt. He just
man.
did his thing, and so I respect that. Um, I've always liked guys like Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, those technical wrestlers as well.
Me too.
And
Yeah.
then, you know, the Japanese guys that have that same type of style, I like them. But then I like the creative guys or the characters, you know, and like the Sandmans, like the Rob Van Dams, like the guys that
Macho
even
Man.
like
Nobody was like him. Nobody was like Macho Man.
I like Macho Man. What I like about him the most, and it's something, you know, most people like the charisma and the promos and the oh yeah, brother. But what I really like about Macho Man was his intensity. If you watch his
Yeah.
matches, that's what I try to bring to the ring. Is just kind of just going. Because with Macho Man, it was like, you know, he set that tempo of the match. Like you just
It's
rolling through, guys.
perfectionist. It
Yep.
had to look like he was doing everything he could to kick your ass.
That's kind of my philosophy on the wrestling. Normally I was a heel, but I do work babyface too. But it doesn't really matter to me because I'll find a way to connect with the crowd. But at the same time, the pace I like to go is that pace, and I will chew you up and spit you out in the ring if you don't fight back. And you'll see that with me in my matches time and time again. If guys come at me and they're doing this, I'll go along for the ride. I'll sell. I'll do my best to make them look good. But if I'm out there with a guy who ain't throwing nothing back at me, I will chew him up and spit him out 9 times out of 10. And it's an art, and I want to make my opponent look good when that's my job to do. But I'm not going to tone down what I do for somebody else all the time. That
Yeah.
makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, it does. Keep up. Keep up.
Keep up. And here's the problem. They're not going to, because even I'm been injured, I guarantee I'm training harder than these guys because every day
They're
I'm
probably
training.
going to get intimidated too once you start getting that fast. It's going to be like, whoa,
Trust
whoa.
me. There's guys that don't want me back, and there's guys that don't want me to get better. I already know that, but I'm sorry. That's reality, man. I'm
Yeah.
in this for the long haul, and I have been since day one. And I've seen so many guys come and go, and literally, like guys will last 2-3 years, then they disappear, or they last 8 years, 9 years. I'm on, I don't know, my 15th year, going into my 16th year, and I mean I've been pretty active, so I'm not.
Dedicated.
I'm gonna do what I can. Yeah, this is my craft, you know.
Yeah.
You
very
know,
cool.
I gave you the Sandman nod because it does cigarette in your mouth and the freaking blood coming out your face and everything like that. But I had a run in with Sandman.
Oh, right
I
on.
was actually in Denver and was hanging out with a friend, and we were just getting a little bit juiced. And he ended up pulling this girl out of there. She goes, "Hey, let's go over to this bar to see my brother." So we're like, "Okay." And her brother was actually promoting an independent wrestling there. And so we went there. There's a fucking ring in the middle of there. And I'm like, "There's a wrestling. What the hell's going on here?" And so I'm half lit. So I'm a little fanned out right now that there's a wrestling event going on. I went on. It was over. It was long over. And then so she started jumping around in the ring. They're like, "Get in the ring." I was like, "I'm not getting in the ring. No, I'm not
Right.
jumping in somebody's ring. Nope." I was in the OWA for a little bit. I did some training there and stuff like that. But I was like, I'm not just jumping in somebody's ring. And then next thing you know, here comes a freaking sloshed Sandman. And I have my best homie, my homie growing up with, I have his girlfriend with me because she's stuck in Denver and he's in Lincoln. And so Sandman walks by and I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? You want to get a drink?" And like the dude's like, "Hey, dude, shut up. He's drunk." And he goes, "Huh?" And just grabs my friend's girlfriend's ass and just keeps on walking. And I was like, "You know what, Ryan? I don't care what she says. I'm not doing shit about that." That fucking Sandman walked by me 3 sheets to the wind and fucking grabs your girlfriend's ass. Not my problem, dude.
And my thing about the Sandman is what makes him so great is this. Like, you'll hear smart fans say like he's a bad wrestler, this, that, and the other. But the thing is he was entertaining, and he had probably the most entertaining entrance in wrestling history, one of them. And the fact is just that entrance alone to a promoter or to TV time, that entrance alone is more valuable than like half these guys criticizing match would be. Like, you can go out having a good match, but this dude's already over with just the entrance.
Anything you see ECW, it starts off go, 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 go. That's every time you see ECW, anything ECW, it starts off with that.
He did the same thing in WCW too.
Yep, Hack. I loved him in there, but
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Before Sandman ECW?
No,
He
it was
went-
after ECW.
Oh, okay. Well, then he's Sandman. If he did that in ECW, he's Sandman for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he was Sandman ECW. He went to WCW. He went back to ECW, and then later on we seen him in WWE. So
Yeah.
and everywhere in
Same-
between.
Same shit
did
all
you-
the time.
Did you watch a lot of ECW then? More of an ECW than a WWE, WWF, WCW guy?
So when I was a kid, man, I was so obsessed with wrestling that I watched everything because I grew up. I was born in 1990, so I'm 34. Still young for all I've done because I started pro wrestling training when I was like 16, 17. And then I had my first match when I was 18. But back then I was obsessed with, as a little boy, was starting on the Attitude Era. I was 10 years old in the year 2000. So the millennium, I was, millennium's like.
He would suck it by 12.
I was already saying that. And, but I flipped the channels. I remember I would watch wrestling every Monday night with my grandma, and we would flip the Raw and the Nitro. And then Tuesday I would watch Thunder, or, we would watch literally every program, even the
I was
Jack,
in college.
the Metal, the Velocity, the Heat, all the promotions we watched it religiously. And I even watched all the Mexican stuff back then. AAA and CMLL was on TV. We had those channels, so I watched that. And then as I got older, and then I saw ECW on television, I already knew about ECW from the magazines, and it made it it was so more mysterious back then because the internet wasn't really as big of a thing, right? It was just kind of starting out. And I knew about a lot of these guys from the magazines. So then when I saw the videos, I was like, yeah, I love this attitude that ECW brings. And like, I loved everything about ECW. I loved Taz. I loved all the characters, man. Sabu, RVD, Sandman, Raven. The list goes on and on. Even Terry Funk in ECW. Just pretty much everything about it from top to bottom. Whatever I could see, I loved of ECW. But I was watching everything at that time. And then
soaking it all in,
yeah. And once I got to be like in my teens and like MySpace was a thing, I discovered more of the independent wrestling and the international stuff, and I was like blown away like that all this wrestling existed, and I knew right away like I'm gonna be a wrestler. Like there was no doubt. about it. That's the only thing I wanted to do pretty much my whole life.
Awesome,
Straight
man.
up. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
And get it right to it, huh?
Yeah, I didn't mess around, man. Like, I think I was like 15 or 16, and went to Hooters. We had a Hooters in one of the suburbs of Des Moines, and we'd go there to watch the WWE pay-per-views, you know. So you didn't have to pay for it, you know. Go get some wings with your friends and watch the wrestling on the big screen. And
Oh yeah, I even shared tables with people. Hey, Mike,
Oh,
want
yeah,
to sit here?
fun.
There's like 2 of us. Oh yeah, you guys can sit here. And we let a husband and wife sit with us. They were actually being really cool. Watch the whole thing with us.
And there's no smartphones, there's no Twitter. You know, I would go to the show and you'd see other fans. You know, we're all there to watch wrestling, so it was a cool time. But I remember seeing like independent wrestling promotion in Iowa. They had an advertisement on the door. You know, like I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm looking at it. There's all these guys I'd never heard of with a MySpace link. So I get home, I get on the computer, and I'm looking it up, and I'm like, damn, this is in Iowa. And like this is really a thing. And then I'm clicking around on these guys' profiles, and I'm like, damn, there's more than one of these little promotions in Iowa, so I need to get involved with this. Like, so I remember I was talking to my dad. You know, I told him like I was gonna be a wrestler, but in my dad's mind at that time, kind of like an old farm guy, real conservative old guy from a small town in Iowa, you know, and he basically just laughed at me and said, you know, like, because I was a very small kid when I was in high school. I was a late bloomer in puberty and all that shit. Like it affected my sports and all that. And it was really, you know, your self-esteem when you're at that age, right? Like you're so self-conscious. And I was like the smallest kid in my class before puberty, like junior high. I was like the fastest kid in my class, strongest arm, one of the best athletes. But then everybody hit puberty, and I'm like way behind on the curve. And I remember my dad, you know, he was just like, in his eyes, if you want to be a pro wrestler, he's like, well, you better get jacked. You're way too small. You gotta be big if you even want to
You
think
gotta
about
be
it.
Hogan if you want to wrestle.
And in his head, yes, he didn't
Yeah,
understand the indies or any of that stuff
Yeah.
or what the revolution of wrestling was turning into. He didn't know. He just knew the old school, and he was concerned with me getting hurt because I was 15, 16 trying to go hang out with men in their 30s, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like any
Yeah,
dad would be like,
sure.
Yeah.
I was just a
Yeah.
boy. But
They're gonna roll around with you. You know, it's like no, it's not like that. Kind of cool. He fed you the sound guy that brought you to see that. You know
Yeah,
what I
and I-
mean? And that's what I really caught out of that was he's like, this guy does this, so go
Yeah,
check it out.
and I think my dad felt more comfortable then because I was already like, you know, on MySpace chatting with promoters and being annoying to other wrestlers, this and that. And then he knew he had a guy that he worked with that did sound. So he figured, hey, if I'm going by myself, at least I'll be safe or there's eyes on me or something, you know, like
Take care of my boy.
enough to be there, you know, present. If I did something stupid, I'm going to hear about it. Right. So
Yep.
I'm not going to go get murdered. You know, it would have came out.
Yeah.
But
For
you know, I was still in school, man. So I couldn't drop out. There was
Education first. That's always with the parents. Education first.
and that was my parents, and I'm glad because otherwise I may have
Yeah.
because for some reason, man, by the time I graduated high school, there was only 7 boys in my graduating class. The rest dropped out. There was like half of them dropped out in my school, and on the high school football team, my senior year, there was only 3 of us seniors.
Oh wow.
So 3 boys, yeah. So it's like it wasn't
Wow.
the most athletic class, very small town, but my class, man, had it rough in sports because the class above me had like a bunch of all stars that went on to college sports. The class below me had guys that were good at sports. So we were that dumbass class in between that none of those coaches liked, basically.
Patriots.
Yeah, it felt like
Everybody retired and left.
it felt like I never got a fair shake in some of the sports I played because the coach was already looking at the next season because our class was just so small, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I really thought I was going to play college baseball and college football, but I really loved wrestling, man, and I thought maybe I would do that. And I actually, so after I graduated, I went and moved over to Sweden, and I lived there for like 4 months. I had a girlfriend my senior year that was a foreign exchange chick from Sweden, and she was super hot. And my only plan after high school was to be a pro wrestler, so it wasn't like that had to happen overnight. I, you know, I graduated the midterm of my senior year. I started working for a plumber, and I saved my money, and then we graduated, and I moved to Sweden. And right away, man, I was like trying to go to a pro wrestling school over there. However, it wasn't just logistically going to be possible. I went to play for a semi-pro football team there, and then I was just kind of like got my confidence back, man, when I went to that football team because you know these guys were grown men, but they weren't experienced like they didn't grow up in Sweden playing American football, so they were just kind of like
Trying it out.
well, it was semi-pro, so you had athletes, but they just don't have the experience, right? So, uh, you know, I played quarterback at my school, but when I went over there, they had a starter, and I'm 18, and he's probably almost 30, and he was decent, you know. So I tried going on defense and tried to play linebacker, and that's where they wanted me to play, and I'm like, I never played linebacker, and I was a quarterback, I was a small kid, but dude, the first day in practice, I just started hitting people, murdered them as hard as I could, you know, and I was like, wow, I can read the field. These guys, they don't, they lack the experience. Like I could read the holes, the plays, and you could just tell the team was just grown men coming together to play football, but they didn't know. Like I felt like I could just see the future, but it's really just the experience, right?
Yeah,
And
being a quarterback, you can read defenses and know offenses.
Mhm.
Being a quarterback, you have to know both of those sides. You have to be able to
Yeah.
read a defense. You're like, these dumbasses.
so I had a chip on
Well,
my
not
shoulder.
dumbasses, but novice.
My main thing was just don't be a pussy and just go out there and just raise hell and hit people and shit. And that's kind of what I did, man. That really got my confidence up, feeling like a man because I was playing with adults. And anyways, I really just wanted to be a wrestler. The coach over there, he tried to get me to go to Wisconsin. Is it like Wesleyan or Wisconsin? No, University of Wisconsin lacrosse. He had like a friend that was there, so he was trying to get me to go back to the States and then go to college there and try to play football there. At the time I got back to the States, man, I was just focused on pro wrestling. So that's when, like, I was full time, jumped into the pro wrestling. Like, I'm gonna hit the road and go to every state. I'm gonna train and I'm gonna be the best I can. And it's like full time, no more with the parents, no more in another country with someone else's parents bumming on their couch. You know, like, I actually moved to Omaha because the main thing was being from small town in Iowa outside of Des Moines. We had options here for wrestling schools, but they were all kind of like affiliated with these other promotions out here. And, a lot of those guys rubbed me the wrong ways because they were just kind of assholes for no reason. And Brian talked about it on here when you asked him about his training at OWA. He said his first trainer that he had was Jaden Drago. That's what he said on here. Like he was the first guy that really worked with him before guys started disappearing from OWA, and he was kind of doing it on his own. It was just kind of the same thing, man. So I actually called Jaden Drago. I talked to him on the phone, and I said, like, I'm from Iowa. I'm young. I've got experience with training at these other shows, but I haven't made my debut. I want to go to wrestling school. And he's like, yeah, I'm opening a pro wrestling school in Omaha and blah, 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 blah. Selling me all this dream, I think it was going to be like $500 is all for the school and blah, blah, blah. And I remember hanging up the phone and I threw my shit in the car and I'm on my way to Omaha. I'm going to find a place. If I have to sleep in my car or whatever. I found a place on Craigslist, like a bedroom over by UNO. And it was like $300 a month just to rent the bedroom, like college students are all living in this house and shit. And I move in there, dude, and I call Jaden Drago up and straight to voicemail. And then he's ignoring me. He won't return my calls. And I'm like, wow, what a slimy guy. There's no wrestling school, huh? That's what my first thought was. I was really kind of disappointed, but I wasn't going to let it stop me. Nothing was going to stop me.
That's fucked
So
up.
yeah, I really dropped my plans to move out there to go to the school, and then there's no school. So I was like, here we go again, like the song goes. But I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. And I get on the MySpace, and I'm like messaging everybody in Omaha that I can find, like introducing myself. Like, I'm not going to be denied from being in the wrestling business. Like, I've already got this under my belt a little bit, but I want to just go full in, and really the first person that I linked up with was Donnie Pepper Cricket. And so I was with Pepper Cricket, and he introduced me to Brian, and the other Omaha guys, and then he was also going to some smaller shows in Iowa, so I kind of traveled with him. Now, it wasn't a wrestling school. It was more like he's going to maybe 2, sometimes 3 shows a week, more or less, multiple shows a month that this guy, Pepper Cricket, they were going to. So I would just travel and then try to train a little bit before the show. My thing was I still felt like I wanted to do more than I don't want to be a local guy. I don't want to just be stuck in the rut of like these guys. Some of these guys were assholes straight up to me. And to me, I didn't look at them with the level of respect. Like they hadn't done nothing really other than wrestle for their own local company, probably for $20. And some of these guys are treating me like shit. When I know I'm doing my best and I know I'm going to make it. So I had that high belief in myself, right? And I kind of knew Brian, but not really. I called him. I called Fitness 2 that you guys know from the shows too. Fitness 2 was like, hey man, I'm going down to Texas. We're wrestling down there a lot. We got Texas, Oklahoma, these other places, wherever. He said, jump in the car with Brian, gave me Brian's number. And
Brian Drive.
Brian, yep, he picked me up. I met him. Well, Brian didn't say it on here, but there's like 2 people that would drive. And it was always Brian for the most part, but Bash Hartley, he would let drive sometimes, and I would drive sometimes if he was really tired or if they'd been,
Is it a trust thing? Or what is it with Brian that only he drives or certain people drive? Or is it just the way it is?
Honestly, it's kind of the way it is, but I'm comfortable with it because
what it is.
Brian's a natural leader, and I was only, 18 years old, and he's a grown man, and I trusted him, and he drives safe, and he's one of the real responsible guys in the business. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've had a lot of fun times and a lot of, crazy nights drinking and stuff way back in the day. But Brian's always been a guy that I could trust and respect. Like, he wasn't going to let something happen to me. And I felt like, if he's driving and I'm in the back seat, I could fall asleep and I'm not going to get anxiety. Like, I trusted Brian with my life. So
I felt like that talking to him. I do.
Right.
I do.
That's how he is, man.
He's a point leader. You would listen to him.
And what I liked about Brian was, he's very, some guys might not agree with me, but to me, he's a very fair person. And if he sees you put in the effort, he's willing to help you. And with me, I just kept my mouth shut. I'd go on these car rides with them and I would listen to them talk and try to absorb everything they're saying.
You were always opening your mouth shut.
Yep. And then we would get there and, I would just be begging these guys to just get in the ring and just do what they do. Have your way with me in the ring, man. Beat me up, throw me in. I just want to do this. So, and after being in the car for 10 hours, some of these times, man, I was just so young and full of energy that I'd hit that ring with 100 miles an hour, man. And I knew right away because I started seeing these other guys training, and I just know in my head how bad I wanted it, and I felt like my level was I was improving quicker than other guys because not necessarily athletically was the reason, just because up here, like I had the right mindset for it, and I was 100% in. Like I put wrestling before any relationship, before any job, and this is at 18. Like the only job I could get in Omaha at the time was like a waiter at Petro's. Do you remember that 50s diner, Petro's or whatever it's called, Petro's or something that's over in Omaha? I don't know if it's still there, but like I remember when I first moved to Omaha, I put in like 20 job applications, even like Taco Bell, even like, I'm 18, I'm McDonald's, everything. And like this restaurant said I could go be a waiter there. So I'm not making any money there during the week. And then I'm out on the weekends wrestling.
Your application, your strength. I got a good leg drop. I could do a good top toe hold pretty decent.
Exactly. And at the time too, guys, I'm still 18 and just turning 19, and I'm a beanpole at this age, like I'm just a 6 foot real skinny guy. So it wasn't like I was believable as a wrestler.
Yeah.
So when you're at your normal job, it's like I want to be taken serious, but I didn't really. What do you do when you don't? Well, when you don't have all the training done, you don't have all the matches under your belt, like you're still new. The people at the real world, they don't want to care or know about it, So it was just kind of my thing. Like I'm just a wrestler, man, and anything in between is just trying to build on being a better wrestler, like hitting the gym and But we were like that time, man. Like those guys were wrestling so much that it was great for me just to hop in the car and get to go meet all these promoters and other wrestlers and networking and learning from different guys and seeing the different styles of American pro wrestling that we saw along the way at all these little promotions, you know. And that really helped jumpstart my career. And that was so what ended up happening next was like I couldn't pay my bills. Like literally, I starting out in the wrestling, man, I was barely making anything, like barely making anything. And they put me under a mask, and I would just go out there and get pretty much be a jobber. And that helped me a lot too, because I swear to God, once I started,
in your mask match.
Once
I watched one.
Well, yeah, but once I took the mask off from early on age, and I knew already how to sell and how to take a beating. So once I started learning how to do the offense, it was like I could go out there and wrestle anybody because I already knew how to take an ass whooping, and the hard part then was learning how to do offense. And the mask matches you seen were probably something later on, because I did do mask gimmicks later in my career for certain promoters. I was a Love Machine, which was based off of Art Bar's Love Machine in Mexico. I did that for some of the Mexican promoters and the lucha guys. And then trying to remember, well, there's another mask gimmick that people know is closely related to fitness, but that's really not anything I do now. But you know, I've done some different mask things here and there, but really those are kind of filler more than anything. Pretty much just been Levi McDaniel ever since the beginning for the most part.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
So
as long as I've known you, you've been Levi. I mean,
is forever, man. It was literally
Yeah.
like with the first 6 months in the business, I wore a mask and like full time.
What was the
And,
horse gimmick? What was that? What was that one you did?
So it wasn't when I was in Japan. Basically the promoter that used me over there, he really was trying to compare me to a young Terry Funk, and Terry Funk was a Texas Bronco over there.
Okay.
Kind of like what they would give him a nickname of to a point. So he was like called me the unruly horse from
Yes,
Iowa.
the unruly
like
horse. Yeah, the
Yeah.
unruly horse. I was like that. And you were in Germany and Japan?
Well, that was at that time it was Japan. So basically, um, what ended up happening was I could not pay my bills and shit in Omaha, and I did briefly go to Iowa Western Community College. I was gonna try to play football there, and then once I realized fucking practice and actually have to study, I didn't want anything to do with school. I was just trying to maybe get some student loans and make my parents happy, but that lasted like 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks, and I quit
I want to
going.
go to school, but I don't want to do schoolwork.
yeah,
I
me
didn't want
too.
to do schoolwork.
I hated school.
They had a
hated school.
They had a pool table. They had girls around. They had food. You know, I didn't care about studying, and then I didn't really care about football because I just wanted to be a wrestler. So I dropped out of that. And then like, I ended up going in the Air Force because I went in and talked to the recruiters, and basically the Air Force, I was like, I need to get to Japan for my wrestling career. If I join, can I go to Japan? And basically we signed the deal. He said, I can guarantee you put 5 bases overseas. There's 3 in Japan. If you put those as your first 3, there's a good chance you'll go to one of them. So I put those 3 down, and I put like, I don't remember the other 2. It was either Germany or somewhere in the UK. But I got my second choice on the list, which was Misawa Air Base, Japan. And that was all the way up in the northern part of Japan. So now I'm like going down to my basic training, and I've already had all these matches basically as a jobber or just a green guy. And now I'm down in Texas, and I'm sending out, you know, my picture, all my video to these promoters in Texas while I was doing my military shit. And I wrestled down there for a little bit. And once the training was gone, I had orders to go to Japan. I'm like, game on, man. This is everything I've wanted. This is what I've been dreaming for. So I get over there, man, and that's how it started over there.
Very cool.
And it
And
was
you
very cool.
signed up for the military as a taxi to get you to Japan so you could wrestle.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's pretty
knew
classic, man. Thank you for your service, though.
Thank you.
Oh, you know, I look at it like this, man. I'm not too patriotic, but I do appreciate it when people say that. You know, I support the troops. I don't support the government. That's kind of my views on it. And after I was in that whole environment, it kind of made me anti-war, anti-military. But like I said, I support all the guys who go out there and do this for our country.
That's the reason you can do what you do.
My main focus though was the wrestling, and the gym, and then everything else over there. There's like 2 deployments I was supposed to go on to the Middle East while I was in Japan, and I got out of them and I got in trouble both times. And the reason I got out of them was because I was wrestling regularly. I had about 5 girlfriends there, and I had a car, and they loved me in Japan. So why would I want to go sit in the sandbox for 6 to 8 months? I wasn't going to do it. And the first time it happened, they literally, all this paperwork you have to do for out processing to go on deployment, all this shit. Like, I literally looked at that stack of papers and I just threw it on my desk, and then I just didn't do it. So when
So you declare AWOL?
No, what happened was then the day comes for the out processing, and everyone report and turn in your packet that you're supposed to fill out. Well, I didn't have it filled out, so I get called into the first sergeant's office, and they look at you like you're halfway retarded. Like, what are you doing here, man? Then they reprimand you, and they stuck me on a bad boys post, which actually ended up being better because the schedule was a better schedule for my wrestling. So it ended up working out, man. The wrestling, I want to say, over there, man, I had to fight for everything I had over there. I tried working for every promotion over there. I got denied by a lot of stuff, and a lot of that was based off of I was very green still. I got invited to Big Japan Pro Wrestling Dojo, and they were the first ones that took a chance on me. So I went down there with something to prove. And the first day there, I earned their respect. And ever since then, like I said, I was invited there. I never paid a dime for my training there. And I was so respectful that, they loved me there. And that's why I want to say to the young guys, if there's any young guys listening to this, guys like me, guys like Brian, guys that have been around a while, we can see who wants it, and we can also see who is, I don't want to say a man compared to a boy, but I'd say like who earns respect and who's demanding respect, right? Like, certain guys demand respect when they walk into a room. I try to be that way with the wrestling. It's not arrogance. It's just you have to be that way. You have to demand the respect in this business.
You have to have a
There's lot of guys
presence.
got to try to have a presence. So even in Japan, I let them know day one, like, I'm there, but I'm not going to be a pushover. Like, I'm going to bring it to you guys until you're trying to drag me out of here in a body bag. And my first training session there, Great Kajika, he was the trainer. And, he's actually probably the record for the oldest active wrestler. I don't know if he still is, but he's in his 80s, and he'd still be out there having matches now.
Jesus.
Yep.
Wow.
The time I was over there, yeah, because
Get some, old man. Get some.
They talk about the older wrestlers in the business, but I actually think in the world of pro wrestling, I know there's a guy in America named Action Mike Jackson. I think he's in his early 70s maybe, but Kajika's older than this guy. And at the time, man, the first day of training, dude, he was headbutting me, trying to get me to quit. Just headbutting me for real. And I'm 19 years old, man. Like, he's headbutting me, grown man. And then the bumps, like, stand there, do 100 bumps straight. I didn't do that in American training. And then it's the headstands, the handstands, the bridges, the Hindu squats. And I was just so out of shape, but I tried my best, and they saw that effort. And then it's not only the things in the wrestling, it's I'm staying in the dojo, so I'm helping prepare the food, I'm doing the laundry, I'm cleaning the ring. I'm the first one to wake up from the barracks that they have at the dojo, and I'm doing all the things other than the wrestling. And the reason they liked me was because when they would bring foreigners over, a lot of them didn't want to do any training or any of the stuff in the dojo. They just wanted to be the stars of the show and just go out and be the star and just show up. Well, I'm looked at it like I'm a nobody. I'm just going to try to prove this through hard work. And that's honestly the hard work over there is what got me.
Yeah.
Hard
They
work
do the
and being
same thing.
respectful.
Yeah, they do the same thing in the sumo schools as well. I watch
Oh,
the
yeah.
sumo stuff, and they do the kind of the same thing. Each person has a thing they have to do, either sweep or dishes or laundry or whatever it is. But everybody has something to do, and they live for free and they train for free.
It's if they see you putting in the work, man, they want to help you. Like, we would go out and they knew I didn't have money, and they would buy me dinner. And like, most of the time you'd go, like, this is what I loved about Japan, dude. I'd be walking down the street, man, with my big Japan jacket, my Adidas pants or my track pants, and then I would have like girls running up to me and giving me candy or giving me flowers. They respect the wrestlers over there. So it's looked at as like you're a celebrity athlete, basically. They really put a high regard for the.
Same with the MMA guys too, huh?
Yep. You
Yeah,
know,
'cause I remember Rampage was like, I was like Japan.
oh,
A
fuck.
lot of guys like Japan. I was
Because
like, oh,
why
and
not?
enough said.
The women at the time you're young, so I'm 19, dude. The
Yeah.
women, the drinking, just the partying and being treated like a star, not paying for anything really. Because when I would go out, the fans would pay for all that stuff, and that's like it makes you feel really good about what you're doing, right? It just does. It's
Confidence, it's ego, it's everything. It's just oozing and building on you.
Yeah.
and you're working so hard at your dream, and then you see people appreciating it, and it really feels good. And I never felt that in America. So once I was there, I was like, dude, I love it here. Absolutely loved it. From I stayed there. Lived there for 2 years. So I trained and then wrestled over there for the 2 years, and basically came back. And I think it was the next year after, they flew me back over there for a month, and I haven't been back since. But the time that was there, man, it was just so beneficial to my career, man. I learned so much and got to work with so many great guys and got to train with a bunch of different legends. You were talking about Rampage Jackson, dude. One of my trainers at another dojo, his name was Yuki Ishikawa, and he actually fought Rampage Jackson in Pride. So I had that background. This guy Ishikawa, man, he was the promotion was called Battle Arts in Japan. Basically, they were kind of like the Pancrase. It was like a worked MMA promotion, right? Like
Yeah.
it looks like a real fight. You're not doing all the hokey wrestling stuff. So
Heard a lot of stories about those. It's almost like what's really believable, and then sometimes the other opponent doesn't really know what's going on.
yes, and I actually prefer that style of wrestling because, like in Japan, dude, I didn't speak full Japanese at the time, so it was like I don't have to talk with the guy before. I just know I'm going to go out there and fight him, and however it ends is how it's going to end for the most part.
That's cool.
They don't.
Shoots, huh?
You kind of you learn to work together, give and take a little bit, but it's more shoot based for sure. Like there's times I definitely gave my body to them, but it made it look good doing it. It made it try to look realistic. And of course I'm the foreigner, so they don't want me to win. But
Feel the crowd
that,
too.
Mhm.
yeah, in that regards, it wasn't a real fight. Otherwise, the outcomes could have been different. I don't remember winning in Japan. I remember being the guy that I'm the foreign guy that was somewhat decent looking when I was 19 and 20, and I'd go out there and put on a good match and then lose. Pretty much, is how those matches went. I think one of them went to a draw, and I might have won like a tag team. But other than that, like
You were the 1, 2, 3 kid.
I mean, kind of, go out there and put on a good fight, and I was kind of not super well known there, but I was making a name for myself, so they had interest in me enough to go out there and work a match with me and make it look like I might have a chance at winning. But then again, man, I'm a different wrestler now than I was then. I was still very green. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm so blessed because I got guys all the time asking me how to get to Japan and this and that. And I'm like, dude, I was fucking there when I was 19, 20. And it's now it's almost impossible because about the time I was leaving, you started having all these guys that would pay for their own plane ticket over there. And I won't do that, man. I'm a real professional at this, and I'm really not a mark. And I'm not going to spend money to go wrestle. I want to make money wrestling. So the situation was I got to go back, but ever since then, man, I've been trying to go back over there. I can't get them to pay for a flight. I've got the status to where I could go wrestle there anytime I want, but someone's going to need to pay for a flight over there. Like I got these guys on my contacts. I know I could go wrestle there if I want to, but I got to get them to pay for a flight, and that's very hard to do when there's guys on the indies that have a bigger name than me, and they're willing to go lose money and pay for flights over there. I mean, they're going to wrestle for nothing. It makes it hard for a guy to make money if you're not a huge star. That's just how it is, man. So, but that was the best, man. Japan.
So I gotta ask, the sponsorship tattoo.
Yeah, so I have. Let's see if you can see it. I don't know. Let me.
Oh, nice.
Oh hell yeah.
They're like a pinup girl. So basically, I had one of my aunts was dying of cancer, so I decided I was gonna like try to auction off this advertising space and try to raise money for that. And it ended up working out. There was a local tattoo shop, Lucky Gal Tattoo and Piercing, that paid for that. And it was kind of like a publicity stunt for the most part, and pretty much just donated the money. And it was kind of like, dude, he was on USA Today, and it was on UK Mail. It was on I got a lot of press from that. I did like some radio shows from it.
Hell yeah.
And,
yeah.
Mostly,
That's how I saw it. I saw it on YouTube. There was a few videos about it.
yeah, and basically they tried some of the interviews, tried making fun of it, but all that did was publicity, man. And that's all it is. And what do I care? What do I care? I already got a million shitty tattoos. I've got over 60 shitty tattoos. What's one more gonna hurt?
Yeah.
Especially if the money goes to a good cause and gets my name out there a little more.
You put up a decent penny for her?
$1,000. Could have been more, but it's still $1,000.
$1,000 when you have that kind of. I mean, I know cancer. The cancer treatment is expensive.
Oh shit! Everything helps, but at the same time, I'm just a poor dude from Iowa, so I thought it was something at the time. Looking at it now, I'm like, whatever. It could have been worse. It could have been a Tampax tattoo or something, could have been some other company that wanted to drop it, but.
But that's awesome. That's awesome. You did it for your aunt.
And that was a chapter in your life, and until the next chapter.
Tag teams that you've been in, Inked Aggression.
Yeah, that was with Abu Colossus. That was in 3XW in Des Moines, Iowa. That was the promotion out here. Yeah, I hated that honestly because I don't like teaming up with Abu. But here's the thing, man. Like 3XW, I wrestled there. I was living in Des Moines, so it was literally like, I lived near downtown where they ran. It was like less than 5 to 10 minutes from my house, right? They had a nice production. They were trying to be like a real good indie. The promoter, man, right away, they basically put the tag team titles on me and him, and we're winning every match. And I know that there was guys in that promotion that just hated my guts, and they didn't like seeing me like an outsider coming in and doing that. But it's so dramatic, bro, because this was, like I said, 5 minutes from my house. I didn't really care too much because I was wrestling everywhere during that time, dude. I'd get off their show and drive to Canada. I'm wrestling at Brian's shows then too. I'm wrestling all over the country, and these guys, a lot of them are just wrestling this promotion once a month. So they like, I didn't care. Like, they cared about me more than I cared about me and what I was doing at the time, because to me it was just another show. There for the fans and promoter,
Yep. And then there's a All-American stable with Austin Storm, Preston Maxwell, Buck Albright, and Johnny Jackson.
Well, by the time I was in that group, it was basically Preston Maxwell and Austin Storm, and I was kind of like a third man going in there. Austin Storm and Preston Maxwell, they were doing a lot of tag teams stuff with MWA at the time. We kind of did some Freebirds rules a few times, I believe, or if like one of those guys couldn't be there, I tagged with the other one. But that was kind of, at the time, MWA. I was working heel and tagging with those guys, and I love Austin Storm. He's one of my original trainers too. Back when I talked the story about when I started traveling with Brian, Austin Storm was traveling a lot back then with Brian too. Not quite as much. He was a little bit older. But he was definitely at all the MWA shows back then, and a lot of the stuff we'd go to in Kansas. And I really looked up to Storm. He was a real man, and he had a family, he had kids, and he seemed to have his shit together in life and his priorities. And he was still a good wrestler, but he's like one of those guys that literally one of those best wrestlers that you'll ever meet. But he's got his other priorities too. So it's not like he's sleeping in his car and, traveling all over everywhere. But the shows he was at MWA, man, he was a great wrestler. And, he did that when he was younger out in Georgia before he made it to Omaha. So he was an older guy. So he'd already done those paying dues hard when he was younger, like on the eastern side of the country. So I just had a lot of respect for him, and I learned a lot from Austin Storm. I really did. So he was great to be a tag team partner with, and yeah, it was fun. Vash Hartley was another one of my tag team partners then in MWA, and he was another. He was a young guy, considered young, but I was younger. He was still probably 5, 6 years older than me. I was just the baby of the group. He kind of had a baby face and was kind of a smaller guy. So one of my first real goals in wrestling was to just be bigger than him, like size wise, because I was taller, but like I was so skinny when I first started. I wanted to get my weight up, and he was just another local guy I looked up to, and I got to tag with him and have some fun memories with him.
Did you ever get your weight up pretty good?
Did I ever get what?
Did you ever get your weight up pretty good? I watched the match, and I think it was you in the white T-shirt, and it looked like you were a little bit heftier than you are now.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm super small right now. So right now I'm at 170 pounds. If it was 2 years ago, I was 240 pounds.
Oh, okay. Because
I've dramatically lost.
You look hefty, and I was like, "Is that him?" And I kept on looking at it to make sure. Then I didn't want to insult you if it wasn't you.
Yeah, and then like I've changed my hairstyle, my facial hairstyle many times. I've got all kinds of different looks I've had, from wearing street clothes to wearing trunks to being barefoot to being cowboy boots, just a little bit of everything. I like to mix it up so the fans, they never know what they're going to get with me, and they're surprised and having a good time. But honestly, man, my weight, like right now, it's hard to see on camera, but because of my shoulder surgery, I've got that Paul Orndorff arm going on my left. I've had so much nerve damage in here that my left arm is shrunken up. So it's kind of like, overall, man, the injury happened a year ago, September, but it took until June this year to get surgery. So I mean, from September of last year, when I went into this injury, I was hitting the gym hard and I was in great shape, and then that injury happened and I hadn't been in the gym, for like a year. The most I did was go on a walk, and the problem with that is, with me being a naturally small guy in a small frame, once I quit lifting the weights heavy, I quit eating heavy, and once I quit eating heavy, I just shrink right back up. That's just how my body is. I have an easy time losing weight. I have a hard time gaining weight, so it just happened. A lot of people are. So I'm not.
A lot of people are.
I ain't got no problem with the weight, dude. I gain weight like a motherfucker.
Ain't nothing wrong.
I was my friend Tim had that he could lose. I mean, he could eat whatever he want and not gain an ounce. And I just look at the stuff that he ate, and I gained 5 pounds.
And see,
I've always been a big guy, though. I mean, my whole life.
And it's a mindset too, man. Like I know in my head, if I'm not going to the gym and I overeat, I'm just gonna get fat. So I'm better at not eating, right? So when I'm in the gym, I eat everything like nonstop. I'll eat. Back then, when I was lifting heavy, I would eat fast food. I would eat Chinese buffet. I would try to gain as much calories intake as I could.
Burning it. Just burning it.
So not to mention, man, I quit drinking alcohol like 3.5 years ago, and once I quit drinking alcohol too, like I lost a lot of weight. Like, I was pounding so many beers, man, that it's calories, right?
So what's next for Levi?
Right now, man,
I know you're working on getting well.
Yeah, just main thing is trying to get back in shape. I really want to get the promotion I got out here going, and I want to go. There are a few places I want to go wrestle. Like, thought I was going to go to Germany here in 2025, but I think we're going to go in 2026. I would love to go back to Japan. I'm working on that paid flight. If I can get the flight over to Germany, I'm blessed to be able to do that. But I still want more, so I feel like I've got to earn it. That's the thing with me. I don't want nothing given to me. I can say I want to go back to Japan and have them pay for my ticket, but there's 1,000 other guys that want to do the same thing. So, I believe you're never really done paying dues in this business, and you just got to keep trying to improve, man. And that's I feel like my best days are still ahead of me, and I feel like there's a lot coming, man. Like I just gotta, time will tell, right? But I'm not gonna quit anytime soon with what I'm doing, and everything's going good for me, like online and business wise. All my everything's up for me right now, and it's all kind of went up during my injury, so it's kind of like, damn, I can go out there and do just these little things, and I'm still getting over. And I hear how the crowd reacts to me. Pretty much wherever I go, whether I'm a good guy or bad guy, I'm getting the response I want.
You're over on
But
Friday. You were really over on Friday.
Yeah, you were.
I
Really
appreciate
over.
it, man. That's and I I believe Lincoln, man. I'm gonna say it here, man. We've been in Lincoln since that other building at Cornhusker. I was one of them there that's been there from the beginning and almost every show. And I know I helped build that crowd in Lincoln, whether guys want to admit it or not. And I know that there's been shows that I haven't been at, and there's been a lot of shows where I'm not on the poster, I'm not advertised, and then I see the video and the crowd numbers are down. There's less people at the shows. I'm not going to sit here and say that's all me, but we're all a team here. Just look at it this way. A lot of those guys live in Lincoln, Nebraska. Where's all their fans at coming to see them? I'm from Iowa. I might have a minor role is all I'm given, and I still got fans that are coming to see me wrestle. Every time it's announced that I'm going to be somewhere, I got people showing up. And I don't care, the promoters and everyone else should see that. And if they don't, that's on them because I'm the one getting messages from the fans, and I'm the one that, I've got fans trying to get hold of me for certain stuff left and right. So to me, it says a lot when I know I got fans showing up to see me that, travel for a few from some towns or whatever, or whatever.
Well, I've
And
never seen you before. I never seen you
Yeah,
before.
I
This
haven't
is
either.
only my second show. This is only my second show, and just your presence alone that brought you in the ring, your character and everything like that. I was like, this guy's cool. You were over for me right away. And I'm not just saying that to, blow hot air up your ass. You really seriously, I really was when I seen you. I thought you were the way you brought yourself and everything. And even the conversation on the sidewalk was even pretty good. That's why I asked you to be on here because I like the way you carry yourself, man.
Well, appreciate it, man. You'll have to ask AJ up there because he's seen me a lot more back in the earlier days in Lincoln. But I've been a bad guy pretty much forever over there, so it's kind of
Ron
new
likes Ben
seeing
too.
me as a good guy. So
I'm a heel
but
guy.
There's a thing about Levi. I've now been going to the NWA wrestling here in Lincoln since they did it at Lancaster Event Center. Back then, back then it was Lancaster Event Center. And Levi is one of the wrestlers that, even if he was a bad guy, a good guy, it didn't matter. To me, anytime I seen Levi on the card, I was thrilled because I knew I was going to watch a wrestling match. There's sometimes I go over there, and I'm not saying I'm not watching a wrestling match, but I'm not watching a wrestling match like I'm going to say I left there. I was thrilled to see it. Anytime I've seen Levi wrestle, it was worth the money I paid to go see it.
well, I appreciate it, man. That's all I could ever.
That's,
That's all I
I mean,
want.
I'm a Levi McDaniel fan. I'm not saying I'm just a Levi fan. I'm a Blade fan. Now, right now, I don't care too much for Blade. I mean,
Blade's not here. Why don't you just give it in
Oh,
Levi,
come
man?
on.
he's a bad guy. And to me, Brian Blade is, I don't know, I just can't see him as a bad guy, is what I'm trying to say.
Well,
But
you turned on him.
if you guys ever see Levi, face or bad guy, it doesn't matter. Levi is one crazy motherfucker. Levi does some crazy shit, dude. Look, sitting ringside, and I watched him take a beer bottle and cut Blade open. Now, if Blade trusts that dude to do that, that was a good night for wrestling that night.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah,
And
I
and I mean, you and what was it, Van Johnson? Y'all held those freaking tag titles for I don't know freaking how long.
feels like a couple years or so. We were a good tag team. Having some
Oh
good
my
matches.
God. Some of those matches, you and Van against Blade and Storm.
And see, we were both bad guys. Me and Van Johnson. Then we were heels and taking on babyface Brian Blade and Cowboy James Storm. Matches like that, man. And I'm just ultimately doing my job and trying to help further the story because it's not my It's not my show. It's not my story. Wherever I go, I'm going to do my best for what the promoter wants because I'm a professional, man. And here's the thing. I'll say too, some of these guys don't understand, and I think Brian might have mentioned it on here too. A good wrestler can go out there and have a match with anybody. That's what makes a wrestler good. Like I pride myself on having matches with, when I get to a show and a guy's wrestling a guy that, let's just say, sucks really bad, Bubbles. You'll have you'll have the whole locker room though seriously talking shit, being negative, saying he doesn't deserve a spot, they don't want to wrestle him, blah blah blah. I look at it as like this. I love to have matches with those guys. I love having the matches with the brand new guys. I love having matches with anybody because I know that I could bring out something in them or make them a little better or try to give them a good match. I mean, you saw the match Friday. I mean, Bubbles, there's a few Irish whips where he reversed me in, and there's a couple times where he did a little reversal or he hit me with a cookie sheet. That's me understanding how to set up a guy who's limited to do a few things just to make him have a few things, and then I'm going to do my thing, right? I could have went out there and just stomped a mud hole in his ass and been done with it, but you want to kind of try to tell a story, right? And I want to show that I can make a guy that everyone else doesn't want anything to do with. I can go out there and have a match with the guys like that. And I've had matches with bar owners. I've had matches with bar owners' wives. I've had matches with people who don't belong in the ring because that's what I was paid to do. And I go out there and I'm going to do my best to make them look good or try to tell a story.
Dude,
for the most part.
Very cool.
Levi, believe it or not, Levi made James Ellsworth look good.
Thank you.
Chinless?
I mean, just like that's what I like to pride myself on, man. Is I can go out and have a match with anybody. I really do. That's that's what I like to be able
Well,
to
what's
say.
the old wrestling term? You could have a match with a broomstick and make it look good, or
You
a
probably
mop,
could.
Right.
something like that. That's the old.
Yeah.
You could have a
Exactly.
match with a mop and make it look good.
And that's the thing too, bro. And the reason is because of okay, if you do quality, the debate on other stuff is quality over quantity, blah blah blah. Well, if you go out there and do quantity in a large scale and with a bunch of different guys, you're going to learn how to do the quality because you want to go out there and you want to be able to have a good match, right? So just by going out there and doing the matches, if you're really trying to put it together, a great match or at least a match that the crowd will like, and you get used to doing that in front of different crowds, and if I know I'm in a promotion I've never been to, this crowd doesn't know me, and I can go out there and I can get them giving me the same response the people in Lincoln give me, well, I know I'm doing something right when I can be in a brand new place and I got everybody screaming at me, or screaming for me. And that makes it so much easier when you get the crowd in your pocket and I can go out there and have them, if I'm a good guy or bad guy, if I can control the crowd, I can do whatever I want in the ring for the most part. And that's why my style too, and it does change depending on who I'm working with, but I like to keep a very unpredictable style. I like to be a true hybrid. I'll do the extreme wrestling. I can also do the real technical wrestling. I can do high flying and crazy type of bumps if I want to. I like to mix it up and try to keep the fans on the edge of their seat and not really know what's going to come next with me. And I'll do some funny stuff too, man. I'll grab the cock and balls and twist. I'll say shit to the crowd. I interact with the crowd, and I try to make it just a fun experience for everybody, man. And like AJ said, man, give everybody their money's worth. I mean, I've never had anybody tell me after one of my matches that they weren't entertained. The only people that ever bitch about me and what I do are guys that were in this business and failed, or they're guys in this business that didn't work as hard as me, and then they saw their own shortcomings, so they want to have simple-minded jealousies and try to run my name down. None of that stuff's ever bothered me because, number one, I don't go on their channels and watch their videos, but they're coming to mine and watching mine. Number two is you guys have seen my resume. I don't even have to say it. I've wrestled for over 60 companies in this, in the world. I've had a lot of matches in a lot of different places. That doesn't happen from an accident.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
hard work put in, dedicated. And
Yeah,
man,
for sure.
whoever you're teaching, they better keep on listening, man, because you're preaching, dude. You are. You're
Yeah.
real preaching, real wrestling stuff right here. And that is what real youngsters want to do. that's exactly what you need to listen to. You need to listen to Levi.
Yep.
He knows what the hell he's talking about.
Here's my other point I want to make too. A lot of guys get caught up in being what I call is promotion marks. Like, let's say you're a wrestler and you're just like, I want to wrestle in WWE. Oh, okay. Go do it then, right? Well, it ain't just gonna happen, right? So, but then they don't go out there and wrestle in these other areas. They miss the big picture because they're like, oh, I only want to wrestle at, you know, this one or that one, or like if it's a local promotion and they think that they have a better video camera or a better production, they're like, I only want to wrestle there. Well, I'm challenging these guys. How much money are you making there when you're only wrestling in front of the same 35, 50 people every month, once a month? It's the same building, same crowd, and that's your career, and you're satisfied with that? I'm not satisfied with that. I never have been. I want to go wrestle everywhere I can in front of as many people as I can, and make as much money as I can. I mean, this is how I'm trying to make a living. So it's not by
You
accident.
make more than a living on this, man. You're making your complete life goals, man. You're completely,
Exactly.
truly, 100% fully dedicated, and that's.
But my point is like, if I'm a professional and I can get paid more money sometimes to go wrestle at a private party or in a backyard or in some shitty ring, or even if there's no ring, if I got someone paying me a lot of money to do that, why would I care about a guy criticizing me who wrestles for a very nice production once a month and he's not making any money? Is he making $15, $20, $25, $30, $40? I don't know. It ain't much. And he's going to criticize me when I know I'm making more just doing some bullshit in the backyard or at a private event. I go out and do whatever because I'm a professional. And wherever I'm at, I'm going to try to entertain whoever's paying me. Bottom line, that's always been my philosophy.
Screw those haters if they're saying that, man. I can't believe somebody would actually say that.
Well, they're watching my stuff, and then if you get on theirs, they got less people paying attention to them. So it's just I don't pay attention, man. It's just
don't punch down. No, don't punch down.
It's just sad though. There's a lot of guys out there that are missing the big picture, dude. They only want to wrestle certain spots, and because of that, they're just limiting their experience. Now, I'm not gonna say just getting better. I'm saying experience, bro. I've met so many people, fans, and other wrestlers like at all these places. I don't care if it's a flea market or if it's the church or a gym. I've met so many people that are awesome, and I wouldn't trade that for nothing, dude. And it's like, you guys are missing out if you're not willing to just go do those things, in my opinion.
Yeah, very cool, man. Respect, much respect. So yeah, we got Levi and let me start that over.
Be in Lincoln in November.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's December, isn't it? Next show is December.
December 13th is the day after my wife's birthday.
Oh, well,
I'm not sure about that. You know, we haven't had that discussion yet, so I don't know if they know what they want to do with me right now as far as MWA goes. I know I'm coming off my injury, so you know, and it's all about timing too and stories. So whatever they got going on, maybe they'll figure it out. And can I wrestle? Yes. But you saw in my match, and I know I was wrestling Hillbilly Bubbles, so it's not like I'm gonna pick him up and slam him anyways. But right now I'm confident in like being able to have a match. But there's probably certain guys I want to work with, and other guys I could work with, but the match is gonna go a certain way that I want it to because there's just so much stuff I can't do with my shoulder right now. Like a lot of my moves are limited, and I understand that, but I can go out and brawl and I can still do some wrestling. I can't do a lot of the big slams or nothing. And I noticed the time I got up on the ropes, I was going to jump off. I slipped and fell. And I kind of sold it. You know, I hurt my knee or whatever in the match. But that's because when I went to balance myself on the ropes, my left arm kind of slipped. I didn't have my control in my strength in my arm. That made my foot slip. So it's kind of like I got to keep in my head too. I'm limited. I don't realize it when I'm out there. I'm trying to do.
I didn't know nothing about that, but I knew when you slipped off it that you sold the knee. I was like, oh, he sold the knee right when he slipped. I could tell you slipped, but the way you sold the knee right away, like, and I was like, oh, what a good recovery. What a good recovery.
Smart. Just got to keep rolling with it. And that's what I love about wrestling. It's improv, and that's why I don't like to plan out matches. I like to just go out there and make art happen and just do our thing because
Yeah.
stuff like that happens. You could botch something, especially if you're injured and you're wrestling. You gotta be more careful, but also like, based off the crowd, right? Like if the crowd wasn't into that match the way they were, like if the crowd kind of changed up or whatever, I would have on the fly done something different. But I'm listening to the crowd as I wrestle. That's how I like to wrestle. And I start hearing them say, Levi, Levi, Levi. I know I got to keep them wanting to see me about to do something, but I don't want to give it to them right away, right? So it's all about feeling out the crowd, and that's how I like to wrestle. I don't like planning shit out because those guys go out there 100 miles an hour and do shit, bing, bippity boppity boom, and the crowd might give them a little reaction, but it happens so quick and it's not really organic. It's just so fake. It's just so over the top fake when you could tell when guys just planned everything out. There's nothing fun about that.
And
I try to train. I try to, in my head, hype myself up to be like, you got to do this, man, just like they did in Japan. And the serious wrestlers still get up and try to train. That's what I try to do, man. Try to just keep that warrior mentality, whether it's a worked match or not. I still want to have that intensity to be able to go out there and do.
Jocko Willing, wake up and train before your enemy wakes up.
Exactly.
He always says that. Wake up at 4:30 in the morning. Got to wake up before your enemy wakes up. Already get your training in.
And you got to realize too, man. Like I could go out there and do all the training in the world, but then when I show up at the show, it's not my show. So whatever the promoter tells me is ultimately what's going to happen. So, you could be a great wrestler and not be the champion. You could be a great wrestler and still be stuck in a match with this guy or that guy, and that's really, you have no control over that because they have their own politics, they have their own story, their own agendas, and that's how the indies work. You just kind of got to show up and do your job, and it's always the guys. I was a heel for most time, and I'm a good dude in real life. And the thing is it always seems like the baby faces in the business are the ones that are the most delusional, because as a heel, I know ultimately, even if I'm whooping the ass 9 times out of 10, it's to get to the 10 out of 10 where the baby face finally is going to go over on me, and that's the storytelling. Whereas the baby face, a lot of these shows, they just want to win every time because of their ego. They think that they just have to win. I don't have to win to get over with the crowd,
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I
don't take it personally, winners or losses, because I'm doing a job. Like there's a lot of babyface guys that are just whiners. They want to win, they want to do this, they want to do that. They've got all these opinions, but it's just like I think they're delusional more than anything. They're
It's
missing
the long-haired guy. The long-haired guy with the older guy, the big tall guy with the vest on, and that lady spit pop in his face.
Oh, Moose.
Yes, I couldn't believe that. I walked in the restroom and he was in the restroom washing his face. And I asked him, I was like, was that at work? And he's like, nope, just some old lady took it too far. Holy cow, dude, she spit right in his face, dude.
Was it Moose, or was it the other wolf guy that was supposed to wrestle Bubbles that I replaced?
It was Moose.
I was Moose.
Okay. Well, see, and then that just means Moose is doing his job. If he's being a manager and he's getting heat, and the fan throws something or spits, I mean, that's what he's supposed to be doing.
My wife hates Stephanie McMahon. I'm like, well, then she's doing her job well.
Exactly. And that's another one of my inspirations was Jeff Jarrett. And everybody makes fun of Jeff Jarrett or they hate him.
I love Jeff Jarrett. Slap nuts. I love Jeff Jarrett.
Me too, because he's a great heel. I mean, that's why you hate him.
Yep.
You're like me, you like the heel, so it's like if everybody's hating him, oh, he sucks or this or that. Well, watch his match, and really he's getting so much heat that he's a master at what he's doing. That's why you hate his ass.
Exactly.
Me too. Just kind of like how I was having a cigarette and talking to you guys outside the show, So on my shows that are more like the ones that aren't necessarily like I'm trying to get tickets sold, I love it when my fans and friends, like, I feel like if you guys were closer, it'd be cool, because the shows I do are kind of like how we're hanging out at the sidewalk there, smoking and joking. I try to keep that vibe the whole day. Like it's kind of like, it's not necessarily right or wrong. The right way is probably to put on an actual show, but I have a lot of fun with training these guys, and we do some matches, but everybody's hanging out. We cook food. We're like, it's like everyone bring your own shit and let's just have fun, and like almost like a party, like a hangout. And then there's people that'll sleep in their cars. There's people that, we do the wrestling and we hang out and just do whatever, and stuff like that's fun too. And I really feel like, so I said, some of the guys are just missing out on an experience, man, if they want to limit themselves to just wrestling at one little show, here or there, because you only have, like, I met you guys, it was a great time, but I might not see you again until the next one, right? Whereas, like, I have these other fans in these other places too. It's just keep the party rolling. You just got your people everywhere, right?
Yeah.
That's what's most fun for me is like, it's like,
Yeah.
bam, I just saw my Lincoln peeps, right? Hell yeah. This weekend I go see my Cedar Rapids peeps. Hell yeah. And just keep it going, right? Like that gets you through the week, the week of life that you're not wrestling, like the days in between. It's knowing, like, for me personally, like, I'm going to go to Lincoln. I'm going to see AJ there. There's other fans I know I'm going to see there. Like, that to me is like, that's why I don't always like being a bad guy. Because as a bad guy, I try to protect that a little bit. And in my heart, I love the fans so much. I love my fans more than anything. So I love going to the shows and seeing the fans, man. So happy right now I can be somewhat of a baby face there and still get to interact with my fans and show them the other side of me too. Because I really enjoy just like hanging out with my people, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
way cool just hanging out with you right there on the sidewalk, dude. That was
Yeah.
way cool. Sitting there smoking a cigarette, just shooting the shit. And that's why I offers you, man, because you're pretty articulate and everything like that. So I'll say, hey,
Yeah.
why don't you come do our podcast? Brian enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Try to name drop on it, try to help out.
The thing about me, man, is I have a very intellectual brain, and I've wasted it most of my life. I've disappointed my family with the wrestling going involved with this, but they've seen I've done my best. But I had very uh, dude, I got accepted into Harvard, man, when I was younger. I went into the Air Force. I had all my stuff that I've done, like testing wise, in school was at a high level. It's just I never applied myself because I knew that I wanted to be a wrestler, right? So I wasn't going to waste my time on all that other stuff.
Tunnel vision.
And then I've had the problems with addiction and just life in general, making bad choices most of my 20s. So it's now I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, fucked up my brain with other stuff and not taking certain opportunities, but I'm been led to this path in life. Still got a brain. I want to use it for wrestling. That's all. Like, right or wrong, I know if I would go out and apply myself at something else, I could probably be successful in life at that. But just wrestling's my thing, man. I love wrestling.
Sometimes right and wrong is opinionated.
You're absolutely right. No one can take my experiences from me.
Nope.
So.
Nope.
But
If you're right is wrestling, then that's your right. And if you're wrong is college, that's your wrong. It's just what it is.
Or even I'll say a job. Like,
Exactly.
I haven't pursued like real careers in life, and that's been hard on. I'm divorced, pretty much remarried now, but just in life when you got other responsibilities and stuff, and you put something like wrestling as number one, a lot of people they don't always understand that, but I don't care.
Not for them to understand. It's you. It's
Yeah,
not for them to
yeah.
understand.
It's your book to
Not for them
write, not
understand.
nobody else's.
I will say now that I'm getting older, I'm trying to learn from my past mistakes from my ex-wife and also how I was in my 20s, but just try to be a man and try to take care of responsibilities is number one. But I'm coming on hot in wrestling. I'm making more money wrestling now because of the website and affiliate marketing, other little things. I got money coming in, so I can use that as a tool to keep going. And that's taking care of responsibilities financially. So I'm doing something good, right? And
Take care of yourself.
yeah, I'm doing my best. So now I just got other things I got to work on, and we'll be good, man.
It was Levi McDaniel. Thank you for your brains, your heart, and all your goodness of pro wrestling. You are a true pro wrestling connoisseur and a smart,
Yes.
very smart training man, and you're a good dude.
Yes.
And I don't want to reach under the table, but thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks
Thanks,
guys.
Levi.